Hi guys, I'm Danny, and I started a Sunday gym because I've noticed lately that people tend to go to colleges and universities without actually knowing why they're there. Afterwards, starting jobs that are unfulfilling. So I'm interviewing different professionals to see what they have to say and to share their experience and knowledge with you. I hope you enjoy it. How you doing, man? Welcome to the podcast. I hope things are well on your end.
Thank you very much for having me. Very good to be with you today.
Good to have you. Podcast will be focused on three main questions. What do you do for a living? How'd you get there? How'd you knew that this was the way to go? So tell us what you do for a living.
Mm. So I work as a coach and trainer in the field of leadership development. So I work with a lot of leaders in multinational companies, and I train them and coach them on how to be leaders. So that is what I do. And focus on a lot of different leadership skills around communication, influencing, and productivity. And I recently just published this book on storytelling. So also helping them with that. So helping leaders develop their leadership abilities. That's what I do.
It's pretty interesting. And if you wouldn't mind, you can always also send me the link about the book, and I would put it in the description below.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And it's pretty interesting because it kind of has a little bit of a psychology in there. Your profile, you kind of have to know how to motivate people. And how
Mm.
did you get there? How did you get where you are at the moment? Were you walking on the street one day and you were like, "Let me be a leader coach," or something else happened?
Yeah, nothing like that. In fact, everyone I speak to in this industry has a similar story. They started doing one thing and then now they're in this role. So I started off, I graduated from university and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I went to teach English, and teaching English is very easy to do if you're a native English speaker. I'm from England, so it's very easy for me to do. And there's jobs all around the world. So in 2006, I came to China, which is where I am right now, to teach English. And in my spare time, I learned Mandarin, and I decided I wanted to stay in China a bit longer. So I then used my Mandarin to look for what other job opportunities there were. And there was one job opportunity that I would have never thought of. And it was a training management job at a big multinational company. And I didn't even know, I didn't know companies had training departments or what a training manager was, but they were looking for someone who had classroom experience, who spoke native English and also fluent Chinese. And I was the perfect fit at the
Yes,
time.
not a lot of folks with that profile.
Yeah, not a lot of folks with that profile. So I was the perfect fit. And so I got the job. And that introduced me to the world of leadership development. Perhaps I'll backtrack. When I was looking for jobs, I was actually looking for jobs as a headhunter. I wanted to get into recruitment because I thought that would be a really good way of making money.
Yeah.
And so what happened was I went to one recruitment company and they interviewed me for the job of a recruiter. And they're like, yeah, we don't think you're the right fit. But they kept my CV on hand, and then that job came up and they thought, hang on, these two fit really, really well. And so it was just, it was fate, really. There was nothing intentional about it. But I started that job, and my job was jumping between China and Southeast Asia and supporting trainers who were delivering leadership development trainings in China and Southeast Asia. And I was just supporting like the logistics side of things. So making sure everyone had their handouts ready and the trainer knew where to go. And then I got to sit in the back and watch these trainers do their thing. And I loved it. I thought it was so fascinating. They were all talking about psychology, about emotional intelligence, about leadership, and their jobs just look so interesting. And I was signing their paychecks as well. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. I wonder if I could do this. And so I started doing a bit of networking. I went around and I went to some networking events, And I remember I bumped into one guy. His name was Mario, and Mario was a trainer. I had never met him before, but I was just chatting with him. And I said, "What do you do?" He said, "Oh, I'm a trainer." "Oh, that's really interesting. I'm really interested in becoming a trainer." And I told him a bit about my background. And I said, "Do you think I could become a trainer?" And he said, "Absolutely." I was like, "Wow, okay." And so that gave me some confidence. And at the time, there was also this book in China called the Big Black Book, which is it's basically a directory of all of these different training companies in China. And I had this book because I was one of the customers. So I was sitting in my office in my spare time, flipping through the book and just emailing. I think I emailed like 100 different training companies, and I said, any jobs for me? Here's, this is me. This is my background. I'm really interested. And one out of 100, one replied and said, actually, we do have an opportunity, and we are going to have a train the trainer workshop in a few weeks' time, and we'd like you to come along. And a train the trainer is where they train you how to be a trainer. But it was actually a bit like the TV show The Apprentice, because I was in the room for 3 days and they were watching me, and they were trying to judge, would Jamie make a good trainer or not? And so I put my heart and soul into those 3 days, so much so that at the end of the 3 days, I actually made myself ill. I had to spend another week recovering from it.
It was
But
totally worth it.
it was totally worth it. I got the job. And that was, yeah, I started as a trainer. And so I worked there for 3 years in that training company. And then 3 years later, I left and went independent, which is what I do now. But going back to what I was saying earlier, so many other people I speak to in this industry have a very similar story. They never ever thought that they could do this. They didn't even know it existed. And for me, I think I was quite lucky. I was in China at a time when there was a lot of money going around. There were a lot of opportunities, and that training company, the like in the few weeks period where I emailed them, they had just started to recover from the financial crisis. So this was 2011, and they were hit really hard during the financial crisis, and they were finally starting to recover and thought, okay, now it's time to grow again. So let's find new trainers. And exactly that time, that's when I emailed them. So it was a lot of luck and just one thing leading to another, and now here I am.
That's really a perfect story. It's you can't make this one up. It's just so remarkable, one thing after another. Like it's just a joy to hear. This is why I wanted you to be here so badly. This is why I'm so grateful that you are here. Third question is a little bit tricky. Honestly, as of today, I haven't received the same answer from two people. The question is, how did you knew that this was the way to go? And the reason I'm asking you already covered some of it. When you said that none of your colleagues actually knew that this was exactly the way how things will work, which is, to be honest, something I can't say for myself, because I always knew I'd be in a financial or accounting position. So this is why I graduated this kind of a high school. This is why I graduated bachelor and masters, and later on something else. So because I always knew that I would be either in finance or accounting. But you're definitely not that kind of a guy, and obviously. So how did you knew that this was the way to go? And the reason I'm asking is because people tend to go to colleges, universities, basically losing a lot of time. And I'm not against academia, don't get me wrong. I myself went there. But I'm pretty certain that this is a time that can be spent a little bit in a better way if people really tend to know themselves, just like and I really loved it when you said it. You were sitting at the back, you were looking at this guy, and you were like, I can do that, but you kind of felt it like you can do it. It's like something pulled you to that kind of a path. And this is exactly what I adore about professionals, young professionals, and people in general, when they had that feeling when something pulls them, and they just go with it. And as you said, if you've noticed, you're not really tired when you do something you love. You're a little bit exhausted because you haven't slept, but you're not really tired of it. And
Mm,
how did you knew that this was the way to go?
mm. Well, I think there's a lot of answers to that question. I think I mean, also I would say it's I do love what I do and I do enjoy it, but I don't enjoy everything about it. I don't love everything about it. And like you're saying, it is exhausting at times and stressful at times. And
Yeah.
sometimes I wish I didn't have to do so much work, and then it's feast and famine. Sometimes I have way too much work, sometimes I have no work, and then I'm worrying about when I'm going to have work again. So even though it's definitely the career I'm going to stick with, absolutely, probably for the rest of my life, it's still not perfect, and I don't think I'm
No,
not
nothing is
really
perfect. I mean, I'm pretty
yeah,
sure we're all in this position.
yeah, I'm not really a believer in in things being perfect. So I think it's important to be realistic. But what is it exactly that kind of attracted me towards this? There's a number of things. One is just sitting in the back of the room, watching other people doing it and thinking, that looks really interesting. And I'm really interested in what they're talking about. And I think I realized at that time I was really interested in psychology. And I learned environmental science at university. So I took the wrong degree. And now the work I do has absolutely nothing to do with my degree whatsoever.
You have
Um,
no idea how often that happens. And
yeah.
you're from England, I'm sure friends of yours are in that same situation. So
Mm.
this is the whole concept of the podcast. This is why I'm doing it.
Yeah. I think you might not discover what you really want to do or are suitable to do until many years later. And I think an important principle to follow is to try opening as many doors as possible so you get exposed to as many different experiences as possible. If I didn't have the opportunity to sit in the back of those classrooms and see those people do what they did, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know that I could do this. So the more of those doors you open, the more likely you are to find what would be the best fit for you. So
I couldn't agree more. And if you really notice, I think, well, not that I think, I'm pretty certain that we are basically the first generation that has this kind of an opportunity. Just
mm,
a British man to travel to China to find a job there to learn the I mean,
yeah,
of course, there were this is something that's been happening before, but it's quite easy to be happening now. This is what I meant. It's the world is
yes,
open and
absolutely.
we have so many possibilities. It's just
And
quite
and
awesome.
and now in particular, I mean, I'm I'm in my late 30s, so
You
I've
look
noticed in
younger
the
than
last
me.
thank you very much. I've noticed in the last few years that working online and doing everything online and living like a digital nomad lifestyle is something that's becoming more and more possible. And that wasn't even a concept in my mind when I was in my 20s. So the even now there's a new age of opportunities opening up. But going back to the question, there's a few other things that made me realize this is really suitable for me. One is the money, and to be very honest, money is important to me because I have a family, and
Absolutely.
I want I want to have a certain standard of living, and so I make good money through what I do, and I don't have to do lots and lots and lots of work to make good money. And so that is something that did honestly appeal to me a lot. And there are some times where I don't do much work for maybe a month or two, and then there's times where I'm just working nonstop. It's just the nature of the industry. So being able to make money in a way that I like is something that appealed to me. Also, the I think the experiences that I'm able to get, I know I wouldn't survive very long working in a company now. I've done, I spent probably 7 years working in a few different companies, and that's enough for me. I am very independent. I like working on my own. I like being able to decide what to do with my time and when to do things. And I hate having people tell me what to do. So I basically say I'm unemployable. I wouldn't be a good employee. So I needed something that I can
Actually,
do.
this speaks in a way that you're a guy with remarkable work ethics. Okay, fine. You're not okay with somebody telling you what to do, but you understand the tasks, which means that the tasks will be processed. When or where, I mean, you're aware of the deadline and stuff like that. I think most employers actually adore folks like you because they don't have to think about them, because they don't have to control them or anything. That's an energy that doesn't have to be spent on them. So definitely
Maybe.
unemployable is not the word I'm going to use, because if a guy is to survive for so long, and keep in mind, not only another country, this is a different continent, different traditions. So you're obviously a person of great discipline. You know what you're doing. You clearly have the work ethics, otherwise you wouldn't have been there for so long. So unemployable is definitely not the word I'm going to use here.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sure there are some companies that would, maybe we would be a good fit. But at the same time, like the traits that you need to work independently may not be the right traits to work as part of a team and in a company. Like, for example, I like to do my thing. Like writing this book and I've written a few books as well, and I've made online courses. I just get addicted to making them, and I just want to do that, and that's what I want to do. And I think working as part of a team, you don't always get that choice and that creative freedom. And so I think I'd probably rebel quite a lot working in a team. And also I just like being on my own. I'm quite introverted. And so I don't socialize a lot. I like spending time on my own. So the work I do kind of takes care of my social needs as well. Um, so that creative freedom is also a big part of the attraction to this job. And I think the last thing is the opportunity I get to hear what's going on. And I find it really interesting going into different companies and seeing the problems they have. And once you've been doing this for a certain amount of time, you start to see the same problems come up over and over. You see patterns. And I find that really rewarding. And now I can walk into a room and someone explains their problem for like 30 seconds. And I know exactly, I know exactly what's happening. And so because I've seen it hundreds of times before, so I find that really rewarding as well. It gives me a perspective that I'm not so aware of because it's natural to me, but it's really valuable to other people because I'm able to just point out that's the issue that you're talking about, and you're not able to see that if you don't collect so many patterns from so many different places. So there's a number of things that have attracted me to this and what I do.
And all of the reasons you gave are absolutely stunning. This is why I love the third question the most, because you never get the same answer, and it's pretty solid. That this explanation was absolutely on spot, man. Thank you for being here. If you have something else to add, of course.
No, well, maybe if I think back to my younger self, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, and what kind of advice would I give myself, it would be what I said earlier: to open as many doors as possible, and get as many new experiences as possible until I find something that I set my heart on.
Perfect advice, man. Thank you. Please send me all the links about the books and everything to put it in the description below when I upload it. And all the best.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you. Cool.
Guys, I hope this one was useful. Please follow the channel on YouTube, Rumble, Gap, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Ring the bell and all the good stuff. Have a nice week ahead, and I'll see you next Sunday.